For females who'd like to write Joe, here's his information.
Joe, Joe.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, brother, you on?
I'm on. All right. Hey, before I continue with the rest of this story right here, I want to say that my last phone call, I was mentally exhausted. I hadn't slept slept good that night before, and then there was a crowd right here of people distracting me. So there was a few things that I didn't get into, which I'll probably have to come back to later on down the line. I also want to point out to those listening that, up to this point, I haven't really thrown any names out there, and I don't like doing that because of the way I was raised, that gang narrative, never throw names out there. But after contemplating for a few days about this, I'm going to have to name names so people know who the characters are involved right here. All of this, what I'm going to share with everybody is it's already become public record. It's part of my case, the trial and my direct appeal as well, and it's public record. Anybody could look it up anytime they wish to. And so, as I left off, there we are, Magnolia, and I'm actually after the argument, I am kind of pissed off, because this dude just outright disrespected me in front of everybody. And so, I'm walking, on Magnolia, going towards the intersection. I'm actually intending to cross the street to the other side of the avenue to look for a ride to go home. And that's when this dude Mike from Corona that I knew, Michael Negretti, a matter of fact, I went to school with his sister. I knew the familia real good. My brother used to hang out with them. They were real tight at one time. And as I'm walking up Magnolia Avenue, he passes by. He's sitting in the passenger side of a Buick, I believe it is, and or I believe it was. And he motions with his hands, like telling me, "Hey, what's going on?" So I nod and give him a gesture to pull in. Up ahead a ways, there's another entrance to the same parking lot, so he drives in there. And I walk up to the car, and he has the window down. I lean up against the car door, and he asks me, "Hey, what's going on?" And so all I told this cat was, I says, "Hey, these dudes are acting up." And when I said that, I looked towards the direction of where the other crowd, the group of dudes were, and here comes, at the time I didn't know his name, but after, through all the court transcripts and police reports, and now I know who he is. His name's David. Here comes David walking towards me, and he's holding a bar in his hand. It's one of those bars that lock the steering columns. And he's walking towards me, making threatening gestures with it. So, I stand upright, and I turn towards him, and I'm reaching in my pocket for my knife. And I always carried a blade when I was out there. It was always a buck knife I had on me. And so, I want to let the listeners know that this dude's about 6 foot tall. I'm 5'7". And as he's walking towards me, he kind of rushes up on me and he kicks me with the bottom of, the flat of his foot in my chest. And so at this time I got my hand in my pocket and I'm reaching for my knife and I stumble back. At the time I'm stumbling backwards, he runs off and jumps into a car nearby. And I had no idea at the time that was the car that he had arrived there in Magnolia in. So he jumps in through the window. And once I get my footing, I rush up to the car, and he's, half his body, he's in a fetal position with half his body in the passenger side, half over the driver's side. He has a buddy in the driver's seat right there as well, and he's trying to roll up the window. And as he's rolling up the window, I rush up. With my left hand, I get my fingers up just enough in the crack before the window closes all the way. With my right hand, I'm already gripping the knife in my hand, and with two of my fingers, I managed to get him through the top as well. So that's when I pulled down the window, and it made a loud popping sound. The glass shattered. That's when I reached in and went to work. And all this, I want to, just let people know that this all happened in a matter of seconds. It wasn't as if I waited 2-3 minutes, like they portrayed things, and then I decided to move on these guys. It all happened quick, with a matter of seconds. And so, I'm standing outside the car, half my body's in there, and I'm struggling with this guy. And, I swing a few times at him, and, he's punching at me, and he kicks me in my face a few times. I swing a few times more with my knife, and then I finally, catch my, my composure where I realize that, it's getting out of hand. So I pull back out of the car, and with my knife in my hands, I walk behind the car that he's in, and now the driver of that car is standing outside between his car and the car that's parked next to him, and his back's to the bushes. And so I'm looking at this dude, and now he's holding the bar to the steering column that locks the steering column, but he's not making any threatening gestures toward me, and I could tell, he didn't want any problems. So at that moment, I put my knife in my waistband, and I walked off. And as I'm walking off, probably about 4 or 5 parking stalls over, there's another car with a group of these guys right there, and one of the dudes was getting in the passenger side, and as I was passing by, he turns around, and when he turns around, he takes a few steps towards me, and that's when we just started fighting. The fight was on, and during the middle of the fight, he threw his jacket at me, right at my head, and it was a real thin windbreaker type of jacket. The sleeves had wrapped around my head, and here I was fighting blind, and it was right at that moment that somebody jumped on me from behind, and they started hitting me in the back of the head, and here I am trying to fight, but I'm fighting blind. I can't see anything. These dudes, they're hitting me from the front and the back. So with my left hand, I'm trying to take the jacket that's wrapped around my head, take it off, and with my right hand, I reach in my waistband and grab my blade, and I just start, slicing through the air and jabbing a few times. Then by the time I finally get the jacket, off of my head, I throw it right back at this cat, and I turn around real quick to see who jumped on me from behind, and they were gone. So as soon as I turned around to see who was behind me, there was no one there, so I turned back towards this dude, and he was already getting in his car. And so by this time, I walked off, and maybe about another 2 or 3 parking stalls over, I find Tinker right there. Tinker was the guy that I initially went to the cruising scene with, and Tinker was right there scuffling with the dude in the truck. And so I walk up there, and I grab him by the shoulder and tell him we have to get out of here, So we take off running to the end of the parking lot where the cars parked that we had come in. As we're running over there, I close up my knife and I put it in my pocket. We get there, his niece Kim is holding the door open and the seat forward so he could jump in. So he jumps in, and she pushes the seat back. I jump in, and she jumps in. We close the door, and here I am sitting in the middle. I tell the dude that's driving the car, which his name was Mark, and I tell him, let's get the F out of here. So this dude, he wants to start the car up and back it up real slow, like, some 80-year-old lady backing out of her driveway on the way to the grocery store. I have to yell at this dude, let's get the F out of here, man. Hurry up. And so we finally back up, and we're going down a one-way street, on the opposite of traffic. And as we're driving down, I realize, I'm in the middle. It doesn't look right. So I tell Tinker's niece, Kim, to jump over me. So I scoot over underneath her, and now I'm sitting in the passenger seat, and she's in the middle. And it was around that moment that Tinker started yelling out, I don't mean yelling and screaming, but, in a loud tone, saying, "Hey, homie, did you see me? I got one. And I had to turn back, and I looked at him and told him to shut the F up. And I looked at him in his eyes, and I said, "Shut the F up." And so by this time, we make it on the on-ramp to the 91 freeway on La Sierra Boulevard. And we're headed back to Corona. And on our way back, one of the girls, I don't recall exactly which one said it, but they said, "You guys need to throw the knives away. Get rid of the knives." And she said it in the plural, and I try to emphasize a lot of these things because, in the trial, everything that this cat did and said, they threw off on me. I was mad because of my niece, stuff, things like that. And I'll get to more of that in a bit. So here we are in the 91, and when they said throw the knives out, that's when Kim, sitting next to me, she says, "Throw them right here on the freeway, on the side of the freeway." And I commented to her, and I says, "No, the Caltrans workers will find them." And that was the end of the conversation right there. We got to Corona, and we get to Tinker's house, and there's a truckload of my homeboys right there waiting for me. They had been looking for me. Some other issues were going on with the with my gang members and some other cats. But that's a whole separate issue right there in itself. Has nothing to do with my case. And so what happens is we leave all these people here. I jump in the truck and we split. Before I split, I tell Tinker and I tell these girls that are there not to say nothing. I didn't understand what happened. It was a situation that got out of control. And I was still trying to decipher what actually went on, because everything happened so quick. And I just told them to keep quiet. And then I left. I left with my homies. We ended up at one of my homegirls' pads, and while we were right there, everybody was partying. I tried talking to my homeboys and telling them, hey, I think I got into something. I'm not sure if I killed somebody or what the hell went on, but the situation got out of control. And so, I'm sitting there on the couch, and the homegirl's looking at me, and she asked me what's wrong. I told her I'm fine. She says, hey, you don't look fine. You look like, you're pale. You look like you're a little scared. Something's happening. Talk to me. So I just tell her I'm fine. Even though she was part of that inner circle of people that I hung out with, I just didn't trust her like that for me to talk with her. And so I go outside, and this by the time we're at her house, we've been there for probably about an hour already. And I go outside to talk to my homeboys, and I'm getting ready to tell them, more or less what I had gotten into. And here comes Tinker walking up the driveway. And I look at him and I tell him, hey man, how'd you know where I was at? He says, that's not important. The important thing is the cops are looking for us, man. Those two of those guys died. And so I asked him, how do you know? And he says, because I was at my house looking out the bedroom window when they surrounded the house, and I ran into my mom's bedroom and I hid between, the bed and the wall. She threw blankets over me to hide me. He says, the cops are standing right there at the door, and they told my mom that they wanted both of us, me and you, for the murders of these guys, And he says, we got to get out of here. We need to figure out what we're going to do. And he says, you know what, I'm going to split, I'm going back to my house, and I'll get in touch with you. So he leaves, and right there it confirms to my homeboys that, something did happen. And then right there we go back inside. And I sit back on the couch. We had to go inside because they said, hey, we can't be out here in the driveway when the cops pass by. They're going to recognize you, So we go back inside. I sit down, and, about 10 minutes later, they call me into the restroom, They see that I'm all agitated, I'm uneasy. So they fix up a good shot of heroin. They're all getting high right there. They finally slam me with a good issue of heroin, and I don't get high. The adrenaline's going through my bloodstream, and, I just don't get high. And the amount of heroin they gave me that first shot should have got me loaded. So nothing happened. They fixed up another shot. They hit me again. Nothing happened. I stayed sober. So I just told them, you know what, I'm good. I go back to the couch, I have a beer, and then morning time comes. People are still partying there. I got a homeboy that drives up, and, we talked to him about the whole situation. I sent him down to my mom's to get some clothes, and off we went to go rent. And off we go to go rent a motel. And, my time's up right now. Somebody's right here waiting for their time, and I'm going to have to finish this another time. Hate to put people on hold like this, and I don't know when the next time I'll be calling, but, it's a long story, and eventually I'm going to get to the end to where I'm at right now.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
But, I appreciate, all the listeners. Stay safe out there, and always remember our military veterans.